Good morning, guys. It's Tuesday. Are you over it yet? No, me neither. As you can see, I'm joined here by Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how you doing?
Still experiencing a bad dream, but oh no, it really happened, didn't it?
It was a weekend to forget. And what's horrible about this is we're constantly doing this kind of video content, so we're always reminded of it. But yeah, not good at all.
No, not good.
So Wednesday night, then it's going to be Wolverhampton Wanderers away. Never an easy place to go. Live on BT Sport, they looked very impressive in their match against West Ham, Jeff. And we've got an improved performance to give, haven't we?
We have. The reaction from the players in the post-match interviews talked a lot about knowing how they'd let the fans down and knowing how they let themselves down. So we just got to see that, because what we want above everything is 100% effort, and we certainly did not see that, to my mind, on Saturday night.
No, that's right. So, I mean, in terms of personnel, who do you think should be starting and who not? Because, there are some people thinking that Harry Wilson's almost got a clause to start every single game. And, I don't. There are sometimes I feel sorry for him being played where he is, but, it doesn't. Howe's always going to play him there, but I don't think he's the answer. And when you see players come on and give it a go like Dan Juma did, you're thinking maybe Dan Juma and Brooks out wide.
Yeah, I think that would be my choice. I think if there's an argument to have Harry Wilson on the bench, like we did on Saturday when we had a free kick and he was off the pitch as Brooks was, and we had Junior take the free kick, that sort of position, that's where you want Harry. So if there's a case for special teams, 5 subs where you can bring them on at certain points, have him on the bench. If we get a free kick from that distance, maybe think about bringing him on if we're sort of 0-0 with 70 minutes on the clock, absolutely. But I can't see him contributing enough. Certainly if he's played on that sort of right side in front of Stacey, Frano, Adam Smith, whoever you pick up the right back.
I think, if there's one team I'm jealous of in the Premier League, I mean, obviously you've got your top clubs, but Wolves are just superb. They've qualified for Europe and they've done very well in Europe, and their Premier League form has been exceptional. They've pulled out some tremendous results out of the bag, including one at Manchester City as well, and they just seem relentless. And Nuno seems to have that blend there that causes teams a lot of havoc, and we saw it against West Ham at the weekend, where West Ham I thought were pretty poor really, but Wolves didn't really get out of second gear, but then they just turned on the style. Traore came on, and down that right flank he beat his marker so many times, and he put in the cross for the first header and then was instrumental again in their second, and they cruised it. They're going to be a real tough team to break down, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, Traore may well start, or they may use him off the bench against a tiring defence like they did yesterday. And either way, the fullbacks have been vulnerable for us, those fullback positions. So what's going to happen? Kelly or Rico ahead of Adam Smith? Yes, but Rico can be vulnerable against the pace. Anyone's vulnerable against the pace of Traore if he plays like he did yesterday. So we've got issues there. And I think they're very good, very skillful, and we shouldn't underestimate Jimenez. What a clever striker he is. He's arguably as much of a handful in the air as Benteke was, and we couldn't really handle Benteke on Saturday.
No.
But I'd say more intelligent than Benteke, scores with his feet as well as his head. The goal he scored against West Ham was a beauty. Just pulls off the centre half, creates a bit of space, easy as you like.
They're technically gifted, and they play with I don't know why we sing it, but they play with pace and attack. And yeah, I mean, I'm jealous seeing how well they do, and they've got almost this. It's their formation's funny. It's almost a 3-5-2, but sometimes they're sort of 3-4-3. So I don't know how we're going to deal with this. I think it's one of those games where I feel as though we should be packing out the midfield like at Chelsea, because it was like a knife through butter against Crystal Palace, and you're looking at the players that are going to be starting, and yeah, I would say there needs to be a few changes. One of which I just think Adam Smith on that left side is not very effective. Stacey, as you said on the chat with the Palace on Palace, I think naive at times, but then he was up against Zaha quite a lot, who's always a handful. But you look at our defenders who push forward and you think, who's that player that can get a wicked cross into the box? Smith isn't that type of player, is he? Every time he gets on the ball, he stops and he always cuts inside. Whereas Rico, we know how good his delivery can be from set pieces, if nothing else. And he can whip in a ball with his left foot into the box that Callum Wilson and whoever else will be up front will gorge on. So I'd be tempted to put him on the left and then maybe Smith on his preferred position on the right, or maybe Jack Stacey, who can offer that bit of pace and also attacking flair, as we saw at places like Arsenal where Stacey had quite a good game.
I'd absolutely agree with that analysis. I don't think you can pick Smith again to play left back after that game on Saturday. Just can't do it. It's not giving us enough going forwards. Danjuma needs help if he is going to play in front of him, and that means it's got to be a left-footed player who can pass the ball, and Rico can do that. So, yeah, he'd be my favourite, actually.
Yeah, I'll put 5 in the middle, and Lerma, I think he had a poor game, but you almost feel as though you can't drop him, though, weirdly. And I think we missed that engine of Dan Gosling, that disruptive character that will just put his body in the way. And then it's one other now. I think Billing may be available for it, or you could be putting Lewis Cook in. I'm not too sure, but I think Brooks, again, it would be nice for him to start as well. And at least that sort of means that with Brooks one side and maybe Dan Juma the other, it will be Callum on his own up front. But, we can morph into that 3 attacking players if we need to. And if we can counter-attack, we know that we've got the flair on both flanks to join Callum. You know what? I think we should aim to get a 0-0 if we can. And playing that sort of formation would give us a chance of doing that. We absolutely need at least 1 point, and I can't really see us playing with a great sense of freedom to give Wolves enough problems to beat them at the moment, playing a 4-4-2. So I'd go with that. What are your thoughts on home advantage? Is it a thing or not really? Is there going to be less pressure on us in this match, or will it almost be the same amount of pressure? Because what there may not be the pressure of, because we're you're technically away, that's almost counterbalanced by the fact that it's one of these must-win matches again. Yeah, I think technically there'll probably be a bit less pressure because we're not at home and it's not the big sort of BBC One match on Saturday night, relaunching all the big fanfare that went along with it. Yeah. And playing away from home, I mean, there's no sort of intimidating crowd atmosphere to get under the players' skins. But where there's a quality team playing against a team of poorer quality, it's an even playing field. And if we play like we did against Palace, Wolves will beat us. So we've got to change. We've got to change. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So let's have a look at the team news. We're going to now play this for you and see if anything's changed. So, yeah, Eddie Howe had his press conference this morning, and we now know who is available and who is not. Quite interesting to see the news. We'll lead up to that. But before that, he spoke about the Crystal Palace performance. And in his virtual press conference this morning, quoting from Peter Rutzler from The Athletic, he said, "Work rate is an easy thing to label at players. We've been one of the hardest working teams. Our fitness stats are top 3 in the division for most markers. I think pressure can have a detrimental effect to performance. The players knew the importance of the game and it didn't quite show in the way that it needed to." On talking about home advantage, he said, "We felt the negative side of not having a home crowd. We didn't have that support to carry us on to new heights. Whether that transfers from our side, we hope it does." He also went on to talk about how much of a low point that match was for him. He said, "I don't think it's good for me to start ranking low moments. We need to look at the longer term picture. 1 win, 1 result, and it changes everything. We have to be very strong." So, of course, our opponents, Wolves, Howe said that they've had an outstanding season. The challenges they faced, their squad's ability to play regularly, of course, they've been involved in Europa Cup, and produce high performance levels has been very impressive. So, yeah, what about the Bournemouth team news? On David Brooks, Eddie said he suffered from cramp. He missed the last bit of training due to a hand knock. He envisages that he will improve with every game. Also, key points. Philip Billing is close, very much closer, he says. He's been pleased with his fitness response. Joshua is a doubt, but it's going to be left as a late call. But apart from that, we are okay. He went on to talk a little bit more about Josh King, saying that there was a fear that he could be out for the remaining games, but only a minor knock is a great boost. It's still very tight. So, yeah. Going to be quite an interesting one. We're going to give Jeff a bit of a breather now, but what we're going to do to talk about the potential team, we're going to bring in a familiar podcast face, Craig Beazley. Craig, how are you, sir?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Sam.
Have you got over it yet?
No, not really. It was a frustrating match. I think a lot of players let themselves down. I think Brooks was the only one that really could come out of that with any shining light. He did very, very well, but he has been out injured for so long, so we didn't expect him to play all 90 minutes. But Crystal Palace, as you said in the podcast the other day, were a very difficult side to break down, and they did a very, very good job of doing that.
Yeah. And it's, the only good news, as well as Brooks being back, is that Josh King it was a slight sprain by the looks of it as a result of that Cahill challenge. So what we're going to do, Craig, we're going to go over a chosen 11, and I'm going to put you in charge, and we'll discuss it along the way. And why you think certain, this is our chosen 11 rather than maybe what we expect. But what I'm going to do now is put my screen on, and what we'll see is that we've got a certain number of players, well, basically only 3 at the moment, that we think are probably going to be shoo-ins, and that's Ramsdale, Cook, and Nathan Ake. So obviously the defensive sides, left side and right side, that's always a tricky one, isn't it? What are your thoughts here?
On the left-hand side, actually looking at the performances and the video earlier on of what Lloyd Kelly did at Bristol City, I think we should give him a go. The reason being is because Traore is going to be coming up against him on that side, and I think he's the only one with the real pace. I wasn't impressed with Smith the other day. He disappointed me, especially for that second goal. With all due respect, it's not normally his chosen position, but I think personally he should have done a lot better. He completely lost AU and then managed to track him again and then completely lost him a second time. So looking at Kelly's performances for Bristol City, Traore should be a player as well that he has come up against in the past, it shouldn't be unfamiliar to him.
Okay, well, you know what? Shall we put him in initially?
Yeah.
I think, let's do it, because I mean, one thing I found really frustrating about Smith was the fact that he always cuts inside, and Rico. He's not got that attacking flair, akin to Charlie Daniels, but he knows how to deliver a wicked left-footed cross. And I would be saying, I mean, I agree, it can't be Smith. So it does mean Kelly or Rico. And I mean, in my mind, maybe Rico on experience, but at some point we've got to blood Kelly. We have to. So I'm happy to go with that. And then on the right hand side here, I suppose the equation is one of 2 3 if you include Frano, but his legs can't do that job anymore. So it's got to be Smith or Stacey, surely.
I would say out of the 2, I would go with Stacey. I don't think he did badly. Smith, has got more experience. It's a very, very difficult one. But I'd probably side with Stacey after thinking about it. But yeah, I think Smithy, he let himself down the other day.
Yeah. Would you say that this having these two, relatively inexperienced, Stacey's got a number of appearances under his belt now in the Premier League. Would this maybe lend to having 5 across the middle in midfield rather than a sort of 4-4-2, perhaps?
I think we have to against Wolves, Sam.
Yeah,
I honestly do. I've been looking at their team lineup against West Ham.
Yeah,
and personally, I think that Traore will start. Who is incredibly pacey, very, very strong. Maybe doesn't distribute the ball as quickly. It's a bit like Jordan Ibe in that way.
Yeah.
But he's a lot more talented.
Yeah, and he's direct as well in his crossing. His second time, he was instrumental, wasn't he, against West Ham? So so how would we deal with him then? I mean, are you saying that we'd have one of the centre mid? I mean, would we have like 3, centre midfielders, so to speak, but one, playing a bit deeper?
I would say we have to put Lerma deeper. Lerma, I think Kelly will have to keep an eye on him. I think he's got the pace out of the players that we have got to play in that position to keep up with him best of all. But I think Lerma's got to play in that central position because when you also look at it, we have got Neves as well to deal with. They've got some very, very talented players, some players that I can pick straight out. Jimenez up front, Neves in the centre. I think that's going to be Lerma's. Yeah, it's Lerma's job, I think, against Wolves. Traore, I think, will start against us. I think they'll pick that out as our weakest point. And Martinho as well in the centre will be very, very difficult.
Okay, so elsewhere then, I mean, I know that Philip Billing is on the edge of returning, but what about the other two in the middle? Who would you go for?
I would actually go with both Sermon and Gosling. The reason being is, we did mention it earlier on as well, Sam, that Sermon can get the ball out wide a lot quicker, which is what we need to do against Wolves, because as much as Wolves are very good going forwards, I think they're a little bit susceptible at the back. I think Connor Cody, we could certainly put him under pressure. They've got Bennett at the back, who is a very, very good player. However, I still think if we play to our strengths, and both Brooks and Danjuma, who we'll come on to in a second, do what they did, especially Danjuma when he come on against Crystal Palace, and Brooks tried to do. Of course, he can't take on the whole Palace team, but if we could put him under immense pressure. We could put Cody under pressure, and the other one that played against West Ham was Bowley. Who, again, very, very good player, but I think, we can... I think they're a bit susceptible at the back, Wolves, so we can do it. It's just we've got to make sure that we are defence-minded in controlling that midfield. We can't let Neves get into the game as much as he did against West Ham. No,
agreed. I mean, so would we say that out of the remaining 3 players that we're deciding on, would we say that for all the lack of goals that he's had, Callum Wilson would probably start, and then David Brooks would be starting on the right hand side?
Yes, I would go. I'd go with Brooks. I'd go with Brooks on the right. And I think Danjuma did, a very, very good job against Palace. And I'd throw him in straight into the mix.
Because I mean, if Josh King was back, would you put him there, or is it a case of a King Danjuma shootout for that left side? If we're playing this formation, I think 4-4-2 would be a bit naive against Wolves, given the fact they, they're sort of 3-4-3, sometimes 3-5-2, the way they line up. I think it would be naive to do anything, other than packing out the midfield. So, Yeah. If you had the choice of sort of King and Danjuma, I suppose if you knew that you were having an informed King, you would always play him
most
rather
definitely.
than a Danjuma that we haven't really seen much of. But like you say, Arnold showed some really positive signs in that second half. So I'll give you the final call here on what you want to do.
Personally, I would go with Danjuma.
Yeah.
I was really, really disappointed by King on Saturday night. He showed one very good move when he passed it through to Callum, and it was a difficult angle. Callum was never going to get that goal. However, I just don't feel he showed enough. He didn't move enough. He didn't exploit. Okay, Palace did defend very well. When I've watched the highlights back, I've watched it back a couple of times. Palace did do very, very well, and they did manage the game. Which, coming up against a Hodgson team, he's always been like that. But I think personally, I'd go with Danjuma. I think Wolves are susceptible at the back, and we can put them under pressure. I think Brooks. I hope he can play the 90 minutes against Wolves.
I certainly hope so. There'll be some Lewis Cook lovers who are going to be thinking, Craig, why have you left Lewis Cook out? And, you always get people that absolutely love Lewis Cook, despite the fact that sometimes he has very poor games for us. But Sermon, to his credit, I mean, one thing he does do is get the ball out wide really quick. And that's one thing we really missed from our midfielders at the weekend. So I don't think that's a bad option of putting him in there. Would there be the possibility maybe of Sermon sitting a bit deeper, or would Lerma always be that one who drops back?
I would say Lerma, because it depends how Wolves are going to play Neves. He's the danger man in the centre there. And I think Lerma has to be on his game and making sure that we nullify that threat. Sermon will be able to spread it wide. He could, depending on how Neves is playing, drop back a little bit and allow Lerma to go forwards. But personally, I think it's probably going to be how we've got it there. Lerma sitting back, making sure that there's no creativity from Neves at all.
Brilliant. So that's Craig's view on the team that should start on Wednesday night. It's going to be a really tricky match. But yeah, what do you think? Put your thoughts in the comments below. We would really love to hear from you. We're going to bring Jeff back in shortly. Craig, thank you very much for your contribution today, buddy.
Not a problem at all, Sam. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
3 points.
I hope so, but I can't let you go. I can't let you go without giving a prediction. So there's always the head, we're going to lose 2-0, heart, we're going to win. What are your thoughts on this one, mate?
On Saturday night, hand on heart, I wouldn't have given us a chance after Saturday night's performance. However, the more I look at it and the more I take the positive bits, however few they might be, and put those together, which I know Eddie will get that right. I think we can get something out of this after thinking about it. Wolves, I've said it a couple of times, susceptible at the back. I think we can get positivity, heart speaking here. I'd probably go a 2-1. I think we need to score 2 goals. We need to score 2 at Wolves. They will get one. But I think a point. I think a point up there wouldn't be a bad result. We need 11. I've been looking at our remaining fixtures. I personally think we need 11 points to stay up this season. It might be a little bit less than that. I can't see it being any more. But that's the golden number, and we need to start chipping away at that. If we leave it, if we don't get anything from Wolves, the pressure on that Newcastle game is going to be absolutely massive. If we don't get anything at Newcastle, I just can't see a way out. So we have to get we have to get about at least 3 points, maybe 4 out of these games to actually start chipping away at that 11.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, Craig, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. We're going to bring Jeff back in now. So, yeah, Craig has gone for a 2-1 win. Jeff, what are your thoughts on it? Can you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, the realist in me says a 2-0 defeat. The optimist in me says 0-0 draw.
Okay. Right. What am I going to go? What am I going to do? I'm going to go for a 1-0. We're going to scrape a 1-0. But again, I'm not feeling it because the performances are not showing us. If we, you know what, Jeff, if we lose, but we put in a hell of a performance, that will give me some hope. And Eddie's pulled it out of the bag before in situations where we felt, God, maybe he could be sacked. Maybe, we're going to go down. But he's always pulled out of the bag. But this is pressure now. This is pressure, and here's, this is where Eddie's qualities are going to show. His man management qualities. The squad are going to reflect what the fans are feeling, and that's the only thing I can hope, because it's a momentous match. And if they show that grit and desire, even if the result doesn't go for us, at least we know they've left everything out there. The motivational sort of messages that were on the big screen and played online beforehand from AFC Bournemouth told players, leave it all out there, put in 110%. We got none of that against Palace. Surely if we see that against Wolves, you can sort of say, well, at least they tried.
And I think how often this season have we questioned the man management skills of Eddie and Jason and the team? And we're doing it again, because it's not about whether the players have the skill and the talent to do it. It's about putting in the effort and being a team, united as a team. And that's what's so worrying and such a challenge for Eddie, because I think it goes beyond coaching. Okay, tactically, he didn't get it right against Palace, but it's more than tactics. This is about getting the team to be playing with that focus, that desire, and that level of application that we just haven't seen enough of this season.
Brilliant. Okay, well, fingers crossed. Jeff, thank you very much for coming on again today.
Cheers, Sam.
And fingers crossed for 3 points. Of course, we're going to be doing what we did after Palace on YouTube. So, yeah, if you want to get involved straight after the final whistle, we'll be on for about an hour or so. We'll do a free-for-all. I'll try to zip through people a bit more quickly, but it seems to be a format that kind of works. We've got people from America, and Sean was on from New Zealand, so it's good to get a mix, young and old. It was really nice to chat to more fans, so I'll try to zip through as many as I can so that we can get maximum fan interaction after the game, and hopefully there'll be positive vibes. So we'll see you in the next video, and let's hope it's a good one. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.